Los Angeles. 8 million people, 8 million systems running simultaneously, jobs, relationships, expectations, identities, and every single one of them is one bad day away from crashing. CTRL-ALT-DEL. CTRL-ALT-DEL is a 2018 experimental feature written and directed by Pirooz Kalayeh, the filmmaker behind Shoplifting from American Apparel, and it doesn't play by the rules you're expecting. There's no traditional three-act structure, no tidy resolution. Instead, Kalayeh gives you something far more honest. A single day in Los Angeles, fractured across multiple lives, multiple conflicts, multiple breaking points. This is an ensemble film, a collection of interlocking character studies that feel less like a movie and more like eavesdropping. At the center of it all, Alexandra Naughton as Mimi, navigating a world that keeps trying to define her on its own terms. Alongside her, Jaini Basu, Nick Ryan, Lindsay Kate Cristofani, and Nick Rootkaus round out a cast that feels less like actors and more like people you've met before. These aren't heroes on a quest. These are people stuck in jobs that exhaust them, in families that shaped them in ways they're still untangling, in relationships where the power is never quite balanced. Sound familiar? It should. That's exactly the point. The film fractures life across 3 fault lines. The first, power. The quiet, insidious ways it gets misused, in creative spaces, in professional hierarchies, between men and women who are supposed to be collaborators, but aren't operating on equal footing. Kalayeh doesn't dramatize this with big speeches. He lets it live in the silences, in who gets interrupted, in who has to explain themselves. The second fault line, family. The invisible software installed in us long before we had any say in the matter. Cultural pressure, parental expectation, the version of yourself your upbringing built, and the version you're trying to become. These characters are fighting battles that started before the film even begins. And then there's the title itself, CTRL-ALT-DEL. The keyboard command you hit when the system locks up, when nothing is responding the way it should, when the only way forward is to interrupt everything and start again. That's what this film builds toward. Not a twist, not a climax in the conventional sense, but a series of quiet, inevitable moments where each character hits their own reset, and what comes next isn't resolution, it's transformation. Visually, this film wears its indie spirit like a badge of honor. Low budget doesn't mean low intention. Kalayeh uses naturalistic dialogue, observational camera work, and a documentary-adjacent aesthetic to create something that feels genuinely alive. No polish for polish's sake, just people, places, and the uncomfortable truth of how they interact. Think mumblecore DNA crossed with sharp social commentary. Think intimacy as a filmmaking choice, not a limitation. We live in a city, in a world that is running too many programs at once. We feel it, the overwhelm, the pressure, the moments where we freeze up and don't know how to proceed. CTRL-ALT-DEL names that experience and holds space for it. This is a film about modern alienation, but it's not hopeless. It's about the moment after the crash, the reboot, the possibility that interrupting a broken pattern is the bravest thing a person can do. Pirooz Kalayeh made a film about glitches, and in doing so, created something that feels completely, uncomfortably, beautifully whole. CTRL-ALT-DEL, written and directed by Pirooz Kalayeh, starring Alexandra Naughton, Jaini Basu, Nick Ryan, Lindsay Kate Cristofani, and Nick Rootkaus. One day, multiple lives, one question: what would you reboot?